Imagine
Hello
waking up
there.
to
So
discover that
lovely
your
to see
name,
you.
your
I hope you're
reputation,
having a
had
wonderful
quietly
day.
appeared in private email connected to one of the most infamous figures of the modern era. No warning, no involvement, just a resurfaced thread from years ago that suddenly pulls you into a storm you never created. That is the uncomfortable position Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie now find themselves in, as newly revealed correspondence appears to connect their mother, Sarah Ferguson, to discussions involving Jeffrey Epstein, with their names unexpectedly woven into the narrative. The controversy stems from emails that allegedly show Epstein referencing the two princesses during conversations linked to business arrangements surrounding Ferguson's financial difficulties at the time. According to reports, the messages suggest that Epstein floated the idea of Beatrice and Eugenie being included as potential shareholders in a venture connected to their mother. There is no evidence that the princesses were aware of such discussions, nor that any formal arrangement ever materialized. Still, the mere mention of their names has reignited public scrutiny over the extended web of association surrounding Epstein and those who once moved in his social orbit. To understand the significance of this revelation, it is important to revisit the context. Sarah Ferguson, the former Duchess of York, faced serious financial challenges in the late 2000s. Mounting debts and failed business ventures left her vulnerable and searching for financial solutions. During that period, she maintained contact with Epstein, who had cultivated a reputation for offering financial assistance, networking opportunities, and introductions to influential figures. While Ferguson has previously expressed regret over her association with him, these new disclosures reopen questions about the depth and implications of that relationship. The suggestion that the princesses' names were considered as part of a financial proposal, even hypothetically, creates an uncomfortable uptick. Beatrice and Eugenie were young adults at the time, building their own careers and identities separate from royal duty. Neither has been accused of wrongdoing, and there is no indication they had direct involvement with Epstein. Yet reputations in royal circles are often shaped not only by actions, but by associations. In a world where perception matters almost as much as reality, the resurfacing of these emails has placed them back into a narrative they likely hoped was long closed. For the British monarchy, timing is everything. The institution has already faced years of turbulence tied to Epstein's broader network, and its implications for Prince Andrew. Public trust, once shaken, takes years to rebuild. Even distant or indirect connections can create ripple effects, especially when the monarchy's image depends heavily on maintaining dignity and moral authority. Critics argue that transparency is essential in moments like these, while supporters insist that guilt by association should not define individuals who had no direct involvement. What makes this situation particularly delicate is the generational dimension. Beatrice and Eugenie represent a younger branch of the royal family, women who have largely lived outside the formal structure of working royal duties. They have pursued careers in business and philanthropy, married, and started families of their own, yet they remain publicly linked to their parents' past choices. The emotional weight of being pulled into controversy because of someone else's decisions is significant, especially in an era where digital archives ensure that nothing truly disappears. Observers note that the renewed scrutiny may intensify pressure within royal circles to clearly distance the younger generation from past scandals. At the same time, others argue that the princesses should not be required to publicly own or respond to matters that did not directly involve them. The debate touches on a broader question facing modern monarchies: how to balance institutional accountability with individual fairness. Sarah Ferguson herself remains a complicated figure in royal history, charismatic, entrepreneurial, but often controversial. Her past interactions with Epstein have previously drawn criticism, particularly given his criminal history. While she has not faced criminal allegations related to him, the reputational consequences have lingered. The latest disclosures add another layer to that legacy, and by extension, affect her daughters. There is also a wider cultural dimension to consider. The Epstein case continues to unravel in fragments, emails, documents, and testimony surfacing years after his death. Each release sparks renewed debate about power, influence, and accountability among elites. The appearance of royal names, even peripherally, ensures intense media coverage. In this environment, nuance often struggles to compete with sensational headlines. For Beatrice and Eugenie, the challenge lies in navigating public perception while maintaining private stability. They have largely avoided speaking publicly about family controversies, choosing instead to focus on personal and professional pursuits. Whether they will address this development directly remains uncertain. Historically, the royal family has preferred silence over public rebuttal, operating on the principle that controversies eventually fade. Yet in the digital age, stories are a way of resurfacing again and again. Royal analysts suggest that the monarchy's long-term resilience depends not only on managing crises, but on demonstrating consistent ethical distance from figures whose actions have caused public harm. Even indirect references, like those in these emails, test that commitment. The younger generation's reputations may hinge on how convincingly they are seen as independent from the shadows of past associations. At its core, this story is less about proven involvement and more about perception, about how names can become entangled in narratives without direct participation. It highlights the complexity of family ties within a public institution, where personal and institutional identities blur. It also underscores how the Epstein saga continues to cast a long shadow, touching individuals and institutions in unexpected ways years after the events themselves. In the end, the resurfacing of these emails serves as a reminder that history has a way of reappearing at the most inconvenient times. For Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie, the path forward will likely involve continuing to define themselves through their own actions rather than through the controversies of others. For the monarchy, it is another test of its ability to weather storms born not from present conduct, but from echoes of the past. The question now is not whether the emails existed, but how the individuals named within them move beyond the headlines. In a world where legacy and reputation are everything, the true measure will be how gracefully they navigate a chapter they never chose, yet must now confront.